To celebrate Women's Day, we caught up with Kathleen from the USA, one of the first inductees to the World Transplant Games Federation's Hall of Fame. Kathleen has enjoyed 47 additional years of life thanks to her 2 kidney organ donors and has attended an incredible 18 World Transplant Games. She plans to make Perth, Australia in 2023 her 19th World Transplant Games. Kathy fell ill at the young age of 10.
I was taking swimming lessons in our Long Island Sound, and they were clamming. They were doing a lot of clamming in that cove area, and the clams that summer were infected with streptococcus germs. And a lot of kids came down with urinary tract infections, but I was the unlucky 1% that came down with chronic glomerulonephritis.
It wasn't until years later, at age 19, that she was required to go on dialysis before receiving her first transplant from an anonymous donor.
I received my first transplant in 1975.
It was Kathy's doctor at the time who actually told her and encouraged her to participate in the World Transplant Games. Her first games were in 1980 in Manhattan, USA.
So that was the first time that other countries were participating in the World Transplant Games. So I participated for the first time. I was on Team USA in 1980 in Manhattan, and we walked from Central Park all the way to the Hilton Hotel down Fifth Avenue, and it was a blast. I swam.
Kathy continued to participate in the World Transplant Games every 2 years and later started participating in the American Transplant Games too. Her transplant lasted for an amazing 30 years.
So my transplant lasted for about 30 years, and then it rejected. And I had to go back on dialysis, but this time, because waiting at this point in the United States, or actually in New York particularly, is a 6 to 8 year waiting list. And I did not do well on dialysis the first time. My veins never really grew past a 14-year-old.
Not doing very well on dialysis, Kathy describes how in 2005, her second gift of life was then given to her by a living donor, a friend who became a sister and saved her life for the second time.
I was a teacher at this point. I've been teaching high school art, and at the high school, my colleague saw me suffering and being on dialysis, and I wasn't doing well, and so she decided to see whether or not she matched, and she did, and she donated her kidney, and that I received on September 8th in 2005. So, yeah, so that's been going great. It's been 17 years. It will be 17 years in September, and I am now retired.
Her 2 transplants allowed her to continue her passion of teaching art to high school students.
So I've taught for 32 years, and my transplant gave me the opportunity to be able to teach art to high school students.
Kathy looks back at that first games where she participated in swimming and experienced her first encounter with sportsmanship amongst the transplant community, something which she says has been evident in all the games she has attended. Kathy won her very first medal, a bronze in swimming, at these games.
I met a British girl that was swimming next to me, and she's the one who actually said to me in a race that I got a bronze in, she won a gold. But she said to me, Kathy, you're doing your breaststroke when I turn wrong. And I'm like, oh, really? I didn't know. And so that's sportsmanship. And she said, yes, you're supposed to touch with 2 hands, not 1. And nobody ever told me that before. And in doing that, I wasn't disqualified, and I got a bronze.
Kathy has won many medals at the Games in both swimming and bowling, too many to count, but that's not her reason for participating.
The reason for participating, though, is the medals aren't the main reason. The main reason is really advertising organ donation and tissue donation, and showing people that people who have a transplant, look what they can do.
And seeing the donor families is her main highlight.
What really is my favorite part is when the donor families come in. They get the standing ovation, because if it wasn't for them, none of us would be there to do anything.
Kathy says seeing everyone at a Games encourages her to keep attending.
And it's just wonderful to show people the spirit behind it, camaraderie, and seeing everybody. I just love to be able to see everybody.
She also never gets over that sound of the gun going off at the start of the race and the adrenaline that comes from competing.
when the gun goes off, I freeze for a second. You know, you think after all these years of participating that it wouldn't scare me, but it still does. For that minute when the gun goes off and you have to dive into the water, I'm like,
Kathy explains at how her transplant anniversary time, everyone comes together and celebrates her life. But what's more important is feeling normal, and participating in the games allows her to feel normal and experience sport just like everybody else.
when my anniversary comes around, that's when I get the cake. That's when we go to dinner. But the rest of the time, it's like we're normal. It's a normal day. It's a normal family, normal things. And you know what? I like that best because I want to be normal. It's more important to me just to live a normal life, like I'm like everybody else. Don't treat me like I'm in a bubble wrap. To be able to work, to be able to do things with friends, to be able to travel.
Kathy is now retired from teaching and spends her time doing art and art shows. She also speaks to high school students regularly about tissue and organ donation.
I speak to high school students through my organization, which is Long Island Trio, and we talk to students about tissue and organ transplantation.
Kathy has been alive for an incredible 47 years due to her transplants and will forever be grateful to her two donors for the gift of life.
I've been alive for 47 years because of my transplant. And truly a day doesn't go by that I don't think of my first donor, and of course Juliana, who is my second donor.